I think it's important for us to understand where this entire war came from. It did not come from Bashar al-Assad. It came from Washington. There was a decision in 2011 to overthrow Assad. Actually, that came from Jerusalem. This has been a desire of the Israeli government that stretches back more than 25 years. Netanyahu's idea is make the Middle East in Israel's image, overthrow every government that opposes Israel. He's had a friend in that, and that is the CIA and the United States government. So this war in Syria did not come from Assad's repression. It did not come from Assad's dictatorship. This war came from a presidential order by Obama to overthrow Assad, starting in the spring of 2011. We have a name for this program. It was Operation Timber Sycamore. The United States, together with other countries in this region, trained fighters, especially jihadists, including the ones that just took power, to overthrow the regime. This created chaos. 600,000 dead in Syria in a war that has gone on for 14 years. The outcome of this war is what the CIA wanted back in 2011, which is that a jihad group would take power in Syria after being armed by the United States. The Syrian war is just one of 6 wars that Israel has promoted, including in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. We had the list, actually, from Wesley Clark back in 2001 when he was handed a paper in the Pentagon that the goal was 7 wars in 5 years. The only war that hasn't taken place yet, to Netanyahu's great consternation, is the US war with Iran, which Israel is still trying to instigate to this very day.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Rumble. And special thanks also for our moderator, Red Access, for doing a great job in the live chat for you guys. Today, I'm very happy and proud to have with me Syrian assistant Professor Modar Hassan from the University of Tsukuba, if I'm not butchering the name of the university. Is an expert in robotics and AI for rehabilitation. Dr. Hassan is deeply moved by the conditions of our nation and the people. So he sent me an email and he proposed that we do this conversation. Therefore, guys, if you're a Syrian watching this in the diaspora, and I specifically say in the diaspora because I don't want to put anybody at risk. If you're in the diaspora and you would like to come and have a conversation with me, whether you agree or disagree, I insist, please send me an email. My email is my first name dot my surname and then 87@gmail.com. So you can send me and we could arrange this. Dr. Modar, thank you so much really for coming to the show. It's a really pleasure and honor that you are with me today.
Hello, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
When I was reading your biography you sent me, and it's really fascinating, guys. I will drop the links also in the live chat for you to see. He reminded me of my brother because he also studied control engineering and he tried to explain to me for a long time what it means, and my political science brain didn't comprehend a lot about it. But today I would like to really listen to you, Modar, and understand, first of all, what did you do in Syria? What did you study? And how did you end up in Japan? And how did you choose this faculty to continue your studies?
Yeah, thank you. So actually, we engineers, we do have a hard time explaining what we do to other people. And I would like to give it a try if you don't mind. But before I start, I really want to thank you for all the things that you're doing. I think all the conversations, all the discussions you are doing are really, really important for Syria, not only for Syria, for any country, for any human to listen to this kind of discussion, how people come together, how people disagree in a civil manner, how we learn to listen to each other and to respect each other's opinion, even if we disagree on something.
Yes.
So about me, I grew up in Syria. I was born in Damascus, and I stayed there until 17 years old, and then I moved to Latakia University. I studied there mechatronics engineering, which was like a new branch of engineering that was just entering the Middle East. And actually, we had the support of JICA, which is the Japan International Cooperation Agency, who were really kind to give us the equipment, some curriculum, and even there were some experts from Japan. Mm-hmm. And then I had a good time there, and then I wanted to continue, and then I kind of grew some kind of attachment to robotics. And then the guy, the expert who was there, he said to me, well, you got to go to Japan if you really want to study robotics. I said, well, how can I do that? And then he kind of guided me where to apply for a scholarship. I went to the embassy. I applied for a scholarship. I was very lucky to be one of the few people who were awarded the scholarship.
What year? What year was this?
That was in 2010. I was awarded the scholarship. And then in 2011, April, I left Syria to Japan. And that was funny timing because Syria was just, the crisis in Syria was just kind of forming at the time. Mm-hmm. So I only witnessed a few of the protests against Assad at the beginning. And also in Japan, there was a big earthquake. There was like a leak in a nuclear reactor. Wow. Like international students who were fleeing Japan. I was one of the very few who were landing in Japan. And then I went to a dorm. There was like no one else there practically. And then I stayed here ever since. I did a master's degree in engineering, a master's degree in medical sciences, and then a PhD in engineering. And then I worked here 5 years as a postdoc researcher. And then I became an assistant professor, I think probably in 2021. Mm-hmm. And I like it here so far. It's a great country. It's people are very friendly. People are very kind. And I bothered myself to learn the language. At first, I thought English would be possible. It wasn't. So I had to learn Japanese during this period. So about my major, it's quite difficult to explain because there are not many people who are doing this kind of nerdy stuff. So my major is robotics, AI, and sensory motor systems in the human body. And the reason why we have to mix these three things is because we work on wearable robots. Mm-hmm. Robots you wear on your body, and then they augment your ability to move or to walk or to stand up. Mm-hmm. And they're quite different from the ones that you find in the factory, because the robot that you find in the factory, it has to do a specific movement. It has to carry one item from location A to location B. But in our case, we have to make the robot move as the human moves. And we have to kind of guess how much the human really intended to move, were they able to fulfill that movement, and if they didn't, then we have to augment. We have to give them the remaining part from the robot. So we have to understand how the human body works. We study neuroscience. We study the musculoskeletal system inside the human body. We study how the brain controls movement. And then we pick up the tiny biological signals from the human, and we estimate what the motion should have been, which is very difficult in cases of stroke or paralysis. And then we augment the ability of a human to perform that movement. So that is being used in rehabilitation, because in rehabilitation, you need to train yourself to relearn how to walk. If you get a stroke, your brain areas get damaged, and then there is an area of plasticity in which we can rebuild some of the lost capability during the injury. And then with robotics, it's really empowered, because the robot can repeat the same movement hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And the robot can detect how much you achieved of the movement by yourself and how much was remaining, how much help or support you needed really to be offered. Yes. So this is what we do. And it takes, I summarize it in 1 minute, but it takes many years to get it working.
I believe so. I believe so. And let's exchange some stories, because I think we are almost in the same age, because you said you left for your scholarship in 2010, and I left to my master degree in 2010. So I finished my studies also between 2005 and 2010 in Syria. I studied international relations and diplomacy, and then I did 1 year in France and then 2 years in Lebanon. But in my case, I come from a position of someone saying, I don't only like international relations or getting involved in politics. I would like to serve my country. I was that patriotic person that I would like to go back and become an ambassador and represent my country in international forums, etc. When you took your decision to go to Japan, I think, did you notice that, like, if you go for this in this path, like, your expertise will definitely be needed in Syria, but we are still so, like, a few decades, let's say, behind the world in order for your expertise to be implemented practically in Syria, you know?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it's a little bit of a dilemma when you're choosing a research field, when you go into a master's degree. And it was a little bit overwhelming for me, because I didn't have knowledge of what are the various fields of robotics. I didn't know you can wear robots on your body. But for me, it was super intriguing. And I also had the ideas of, like, is there something really I can learn that is more suitable, like, to my level, or that I can take back to my country and really implement there? And the answer was from my advisor. He said to me, well, don't worry about it, because all these skills are transferable. It's not that whatever you work here, you're going to just carry it, put it in a suitcase and take it back. You take back the knowledge, you take back the experience, you take back the methodology of research, of creating new knowledge. So that is definitely true. And actually, on top of that, we do work on prosthetics a lot. We create prostheses for someone who has lost an arm or a leg or a finger. And unfortunately, in Syria, there are many people who lost limbs, or either entirely or partially during the war. So I do hope to be able to contribute somehow. Especially we use, like, 3D printers. We create also kind of a branch. We call them appropriate. What appropriate means, really, it means it is both affordable and suitable for the kind of activity that a person is trying to use it for. So I wish we can really, at least using this kind of technology, provide some assistance, some kind of affordable prosthesis for people who lost limbs during the war.
Yes. Katan, I just want to respond to a few live chats. Katan, I will check your message, and I will respond to you about your candidate to come to the show. And our moderator is very, let's say, militaristic in his understanding of politics. So he says he could help create drones for warfare to reconquer the Golan Heights. So the people are going to use your expertise in military.
Military research is strictly prohibited where I work, and I personally would never like to work on a weapon.
Modar, in 2010, you moved to Japan. You started studying. There was
2011.
an earthquake. In 2011, there was an earthquake in your country, and this uprising, which quickly became, let's call it, an insurgency in Syria. You're watching from there. I'm sure you're worried about what's going on in the country. You have a family here, but from the first glance, we're all, like, seeing things that are so new to us, and that is, people are calling for freedom. People are going to demonstrations. Some people say we need democracy. Other people say raise a different slogan. Some of them are very legitimate. Others are very sectarian, radical. How did you perceive this movement at the beginning? How did you come to the, let's say, radical conclusion of what it was or what it is, or it took you some time?
Well, to be honest, my memory is not that sharp of that period, but I definitely remember my feeling, and my honest feeling was I didn't really see that going anywhere well. I was a little bit more naive back then. I admit that, but at the time I was in the protests that I saw in Latakia, I didn't see calls for democracy. I didn't see calls for human rights. I just saw people who were angry with the regime, which obviously people are because it's a dictatorship. It doesn't let you really express your opinion very often. But I didn't see the slogans that I would have liked to see being carried by the protesters. In many areas, there are people who are calling freedom, which was great. But freedom from what? And then there are many people calling for the fall of the regime, which I understand is dictatorship. But then what do you do then? What is your alternative? So I was not really a supporter of this. That is part of it. And another part of it is I'm an Alawite, and being an Alawite, you have a different perspective of whatever political movement that happens in the country. So being an Alawite at the beginning, I was, well, this is good, we're going somewhere. But very soon we started hearing chants that are sectarian against the Alawite. One of the earliest one that appeared was Alawites to the grave and Christians to Beirut or something like that. Yeah. And for me, that was an instant, like if you're an Alawite and you hear that, then immediately you start feeling, well, me to the grave? No, thank you. I'm not joining that.
But being an Alawite, in my opinion, in Syria, there's a big misunderstanding of what an Alawite is. Like, people think that Alawite people are just one group of people without any differences among them. Some of them were communists, some of them were socialists, some of them were pan-Arabists, some of them were atheists, some of them were even against any, let's say, change. They were loyalists to the regime. So there were different shapes and forms. Some of them ended up in jail. Yesterday, I spoke to a friend, and her father was a political prisoner under Hafiz al-Assad. But this, from the beginning, it was like it's the first 2 weeks, and I've seen these videos, and I've seen this, heard these slogans like Alawites to the graves and the Christians to Beirut. How can we characterize this as a national, let's say, movement, whether it is democratic or not, to begin with, in order to combine and invite all the components of the Syrian society to join such a movement? You need to speak to everyone. And from this exclusion from the beginning, this grievance against the Alawites. I mean, I myself, I'm a Christian from Syria, and every time I watch the videos, the people who paid the price the most by the so-called rebels were the Alawites. They were the ones who were targeted consistently for their own identity. I would like to know how it felt to grow up, let's say, as an Alawi in Damascus. You grew up in a place where it is overwhelmingly is a Sunni population. Did you feel any, let's say, grievance or any sort of prejudice against you? I myself, as a Christian, I never felt that. Not in Aleppo and not in Damascus, where I also studied. And our entire businesses was with the Muslim Sunni community. I never felt that. It only started after the Syrian war. And if that is also the case, what do you think was the trigger, like this shift that happened among the leaders of this so-called uprising that were very, very, let's say, simple thing to call is the racist? Yes, they were racist against the Alawites. Why is that?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know why at the time. I didn't have a very good understanding of it because it's something new. I grew up in Damascus, and by the way, I did not really face much difficulties in Damascus. I had many friends, and I was happy to use my Damascus accent whenever I needed, my Alawite accent whenever I needed. For me, it was a fun double identity, but it wasn't something bad. It was just something I was kind of in an environment I was born in, and for me, it was fine. There are a couple of instances, and of course, everyone is aware. No one is naive not to realize that the dictatorship, the regime was a dictatorship regime, and he did use many Alawites in security apparatus. So I understand that, but still, at the same time, my image of Syria at the time was much more civilized than that. It's like if you want to make an uprising against the regime, then why would you bring sectarianism into it? If, on the contrary, if you said downfall the regime and we're all one people, then you would have gathered more support. And I for one, I would have loved to join a real civil movement for freedom, for democracy, for modernization. We're just like any other Syrian anyone who was educated at the time and any time would like to move to the better, and they do realize the drawbacks of living in an oppressive regime. But you mentioned something important, which is what would it like to grow up as an Alawite, which is actually slightly different from the majority. So it's a secretive religion, as you know, and then you really cannot talk to other people about it. You just keep it for yourself. And like when you become a teenager, you get a teacher. Every teenager boy gets a teacher, and then the teacher teaches you everything in person, and he tells you not to mention that to anybody. And then you talk to it only to other Alawites in religious gatherings. So there is an aspect that feeling that you are kind of a unit within a larger unit. But that did not, at the time, interfere for me with my thinking of as a Syrian. That was just one of the quirks that I was of the group of people that I was born in. It had other implications, but for me, it was always in parallel. It was never conflicting with my relationships with other people around me, with my endeavors, with my kind of feeling of patriotism. It was. It's just something that if you're born in this kind of group of people, you just learn it. It becomes natural to you over time.
Mm-hmm. This is something that I would like to know about when we call, for example, the former regime a dictatorship or authoritarianism. I called it political authoritarianism, and I believe that it was a regime that was based on political loyalty, not on sectarian affiliation. If you're loyal to the regime, the regime will uplift you economically, socially. If you're doing business with them, nobody cares what's your sect or what's your religion, as long as you're loyal to that. But if you challenge the regime enough politically, then you would end up in jail, whether you're an Alawi or you're a Sunni or you're a Christian or right. So it was, some people call it like a fair dictatorship or fair authoritarianism. But when you look into the greater picture in the region, I mean, Syria was not like an exception to the rule. You know, like the region is entirely, let's say, mostly is based on political authoritarians that are even worse than what it used to be in Syria. Like, I mean, as someone who lived half of his life, let's say, in Syria, I didn't feel like I'm afraid in Syria. I can practice my religion, my rituals. I went to school. The only time I felt of dictatorship in Syria was during Qawmiya class. For Qawmiya, for those who don't know, guys, it was a class during our elementary and secondary school that they teach us about patriotism and about the slogans of the Ba'ath Party, etc. Anyways, and this was in the 10th grade, and I asked the teacher, who was the author of the book they were teaching us at school, and I just like, I was so naive, and I asked her, like, if the slogans or the goals of the Ba'ath Party are practically difficult to implement nowadays, why don't we change some of these slogans, you know? And she told me, after the class, we could go to Makhfar. And for those who don't know what Makhfar is like a police station or something.
Like a police station.
Yeah, we could go to the Makhfar, and you could tell that to them, you know, if you want to change the slogans of the Ba'ath. But that's what I mean, you know. It wasn't like people didn't feel it on their daily life that there is a dictatorship there. People were not like involved in politics all the time. People were running after their businesses, going to school, university, prayers, and family affairs. But when it came to pushing against the nature of the regime, you want to topple the regime, right? I think that's when the characteristics or the brutality of the regime came. Before that, the people didn't feel much. Even the political prisoners. Now, nowadays, people say, look at Bashar, what he did in 2011. He released the Islamists from the prison, from Sednaya prison, for example. And to be honest with you, these 1,600 political prisoners in Syria, vast majority of them were Islamists. So those were the ones who he released, because those were the ones the opposition asked him to release. So he released them, right, including Zahran Alloush and the rest. So in my opinion, the In Syria, unfortunately, I don't think democracy would work now under such circumstances, not in the near future. You will need a societal reform. We start from the bottom of the hierarchy and then you go to the top of the hierarchy. But with the presence of religious identities, and especially that this religious identity is deciding every aspect of your life, like how I look at you, if you're worthy of respect, it depends what my religion says. If I can marry you, it depends on what my religion says. My loyalty to my community or to others depends on this. The relationship is vertical in the country. How can we really build a
So
democracy?
I really want to comment on this, if you don't mind, because there are huge differences that we realized after we went through this entire war, and then after the Assad fall, because of course it is a dictatorship, but that as you said, that is the case for every almost single country in the Middle East. In the Gulf countries, they have kings. In the Iraq, in Syria, we have dictatorships of one person. In Lebanon, there are many tiny dictatorships. They have many little dictators who are always on top of their sects. In Libya, in Algeria, in Tunisia, in Egypt, this is just the curse of the entire Middle East and North Africa, and even in some other Latin American countries, in some Asian countries maybe. So that is the case. Human society goes through these stages in different countries, depending on their past, depending on their composition, depending on how fast they can move forward. But as I said to you, I couldn't join the movement to topple Assad. One reason is because people said I have to be killed in some of the protests. Another reason is this is not how you change to the better. If you change to the better, it really has to be structured much better. You need to kind of plant the seeds of change in society. You need to go from top down. You don't just overthrow the dictator and then you have a great society and then you have a great country. No, that's not how you deal with it. And this is why many people, not only me, not only the Alawites, many people in major cities, in Damascus, in Aleppo, they didn't just find it as a great proposition just to get to overthrow the regime, especially with the obvious trend. So that is one to say. And nonetheless, in 2011, there were people, definitely there were many Alawites who were joining the movement. There is something that's called like Free Alawite kind of officer movement, in which they were breaking off from the regime, but that evaporated really fast when the extremist went into it. That evaporated any Alawite who ever thought about it. And as your guest mentioned last time, there are many Alawites who are against the regime. Many of them, they were thrown in jail. But when we started to see the extremists, when we started to see the Nusra Front, when people started to say we're coming to slaughter you, that was one of the most famous slogans of the entire 14 years of the war in Syria. How in the world can you join this kind of movement? There is no place for you over there. So in the regime, there were all kinds of Syrians. There were Sunnis, there were Alawites, there were Christians, there were Kurds, there were everyone. But in the opponents, in the extremists, there was, I promise you, there was no Alawite whatsoever. There were no Christian whatsoever. There were no Druze whatsoever. So this is an issue. People make I wouldn't say a mistake, probably a misconception. It is very naive to assume that in a conflict you have two sides, one is a good side and one is a bad side.
Yes.
That is almost never the case. You have two sides, both of them are bad in one way or another. It's not as simple to say this side is bad, so the other side must be good. On one side, we had a dictatorship. On the other side, we had Nusra Front, we had Qaeda, we had ISIS. Very quickly, they formed. And we felt the signs. We saw many cases of killing, many cases of murder of Alawites. So for us, it was very clear that this is not going anywhere well. We know it's a dictatorship, but the options in Syria were never, the choices were never a dictatorship or a beautiful, peaceful society with democracy. We were never given these options. We only had two options. We had the dictatorship, which is ruthless, but if you don't go into politics, you were fine. You can go on living your life. You can go to university. You can get a good job. You can get a good salary, and the other option was extremists. Now, no one in their right mind would choose Al-Qaeda over anything else, and this is basically what happened to me.
You said nobody with what?
In their right mind, in their correct mind.
That's the point, right? It's very conditional, and unfortunately, every day the experience has shown to us. Because you mentioned this very famous video, and I want to show this to our audience because probably many of them do not know about these videos. And those are guys from 2011, so the first year of the so-called Syrian revolution, when they used to promise the minorities, and especially the Alawites, naming them that they will come to slaughter them. Please check this video with me, and there are some subtitles. This is from 2011, right? This is not just one video, by the way, guys. There are many, many of them. And it's the same song over and over again. Why I'm showing you this? Because this week, and this was only yesterday, or 2 days ago, actually, this was in Damascus, guys. So, like seriously, how do you feel when watching these videos? I mean, I'm not talking about 2011. We have 2025, and in these 14 years, it seems that these people didn't develop. It's like the theory of people evolving is just is not applicable on the situation in Syria. People are just going back in time and we're not going to the front or what?
Well, I cannot even find the word to explain to you how do I feel about it, because it is absolutely frustrating to see that an entire population of people are not able to realize that extremism is bad for everyone. There is no good outcome of this extremism, and especially because of the massacres that happened recently for the Alawites and for the Druzes. So before that, I just wanted to say, you showed a video from 2011. I have several of these, and even I have some people became iconic because they were killed by these kind of masses. And people ask me all the time, where were you for 14 years? Well, for 14 years, I was scared of you, buddy. For 14 years, I was hoping you would not be in charge one day, because I know what the outcome is. And then that happened indeed in the massacres in March 7. They went to Alawite villages. They murdered people with knives, and they were sharing these. I have a small YouTube channel, and I recently made a video about it, only in Arabic. Sorry, I didn't make one in English. But I was watching this on Telegram channels. They're sharing the videos of someone murdering another human being, and they were cheering for it.
Yes.
And they were happy with it, and they were enjoying the scenes of massacres in almost real time. We all know that Assad was a dictatorship. We all know a dictatorship is bad. We all know they're ruthless. We all know if you fight them, they're going to fight you. But you don't just go into villages of innocent civilians and start murdering them. So, like, this extremism, it's almost mind blowing. Why it survives this far for thousands of years? Why it keeps appearing, and why it keeps being directed at a group after a group after a group. And so, like, it's really difficult to explain this. It's difficult to keep just a straight face while talking about it.
Modar, my friend, I would like to say something about this, especially when it comes to the massacres. My grandparents told me about the Armenian genocide and the stories we read in the books. We watched the photos. There was no Assad regime. There was no Assad dictatorship. There was no Assad oppression. And 1.5 million people got killed and slaughtered with the same way and the same barbarity on the way from Eastern Anatolia to the deserts of Deir ez-Zor. There is something deeper behind this criminality and this ideology, let's say. And when the war started in Syria in 2011, I remembered, this reminded me of the atrocities committed by the Ottoman Turks and then the Young Turks against the Armenians, similar barbarity, similar motives. And therefore, I took a very strong stance against it, even if people called me an Assadist, that I support Assad and all these things. But logically speaking, this violence and the intention of eliminating the others, and especially when it comes to what they call the apostates, believe me, you are at the forefront of the people who would be targeted. I would be standing in line waiting for my turn to come, because they would like to first purify the Islamic family, and that's what
It happened to the Druze as well. The Druze were not part of the Assad regime.
Yeah.
At some point during the war, the Druze were the only ones who were still opposing Assad. Everyone else wanted just to negotiate with him. And
Exactly.
the same happened to them, with the same barbarity, with the same cruelty. So it's just extremism, it's terrorism. It is what it is.
Yeah, but nowadays, this type of extremism has a backer or multiple backers, one of which is in the United States, Turkey, we have Qatar, even Russia.
Well, they've always had Turkish support, to be fair. It's not new.
Yes, but when we see this type of support to the most worst radical type of people in power in our country, we have to ask the question, why? Why is it that they picked someone like Jolani and not someone who has a similar mentality like yourself? He's from a Sunni family, but he has a similar mentality like yourself. Why picking Jolani?
I have a good answer for you. The answer is simply because they don't care, because they care about their interests. They don't care about the well-being of Syrian people in Syria. For them, we are second degree or third degree humans. That is a simple answer, but there is a more complicated answer. The more complicated answer is they needed somebody to be the guarantor of some kind of stability in the Middle East, and the only candidate who won by lack of competition is the HTS, and they needed to do something with the HTS. So my guess is there are many factors. One factor is Europe wants to get rid of the immigrants. They want to send them back. And to be honest with you, I don't blame them. I understand why they have this stance right now. Another thing is the US doesn't want trouble. They don't want to spend billions of dollars fighting terrorism in the Middle East again for 10 or 20 more years. They're trying to solve it in other ways, and they think that they have the tools. Whether or not they actually do, it's quite unclear to me. The Gulf countries and Turkey, they want an ally Sunni state in Syria, and they spent a lot of money and a lot of resources to get that, and they're not going to let go of it very easily, because they're almost there. But the only problem is they have their own guy. They just needed a little bit less crazy guy to be on top. And Israel wants to divide Syria up. It's very obvious that this is what they wanted to do from a long time ago. So you have all these conflicting interests in Syria, and you have all these regional countries who are pushing with a lot of money, with a lot of influence, in order to get what they want. But they're conflicting; they don't go very well together, and we are paying the price. We are just a scapegoat that is. However many Syrians die, they don't care. They care about their interests. This is a cruel fact that we have to be very clear about.
I will show you a photo I just made of a screenshot. Donald Trump made a statement today about Jolani, and he's very proud of Jolani, basically, whom I call and I say he's a good boy, basically, for Trump.
That's what you say for.
Yeah.
for a dog that's behaving well.
So this is what Trump says today. The US is very satisfied with the results displayed through hard work and determination in the country of Syria. We are doing everything within our power to make sure the government of Syria continues to do what was intended, which is substantial in order to build a true and prosperous country. One of the things that has helped them greatly was my termination of very strong and biting sanctions. I believe this was truly appreciated by Syria, its leadership, and its people. It is very important that Israel maintain a strong and true dialogue with Syria and that nothing takes place that will interfere with Syria's evolution into a prosperous state. The new president of Syria, Shara, is working diligently to make sure good things happen and that both Syria and Israel will have a long and prosperous relationship together. This is a historic opportunity and adds to the success already attained for peace in the Middle East. Now, it seems that this latest visit of Netanyahu to the newly occupied territories was not really endorsed by the United States. The Americans want al-Jolani to have centralized powers, to take over the country, to rule over everyone. But the Israelis have a different approach. They want to create a decentralized government and give what they call the minorities special statuses in the country. How do we reconcile with the fact that at one point we look at Israel with suspiciously the least thing to say, and their intervention in Syria, their fingerprints are everywhere in the destruction of the old state. And then after the regime change, destruction of the country, and we're faced with a serious existential threat against the Jolani regime, and now Israel comes and says, I'm your friend, I'm going to save you, here is my hand. What do we say to that?
Well, it's very complicated. Like, no one has a simple and easy answer to that, especially not the minorities, because we have a very, very, very difficult situation in our hands. Well, we have a country in which a large portion of the population is radicalized. We cannot deny that Jolani has popular base in several areas in Syria. So we have to be honest about this. We cannot hide behind our finger anymore. So the minorities, as a minority, right now, I am in self-preservation mode. I'm not in making courageous steps mode. I'm in a condition in which I'm worried about the survival of my people, of my family, whether it is Druze, whether it is Alawites, whether it is other smaller minorities. So Assad, they have probably enough military power to hold themselves, but the Druze, if they lost the last offensive, it would have been horrible for them. The killing only stops because there's too much blood smell in the air, because it brings too much attention. So these minorities are in a very hard situation. They're not in a spot to choose an ally. And Israel, they're playing it right. They know they put the minorities in this spot, and then they come here and offer themselves as a savior. It's like, well, you can work with us, or you don't have really any other options. But still, I don't think it's a great idea, because if you sell your soul to the devil, then your soul is gone.
Yes.
And that is one issue. Another issue is,
what can the people do under such circumstances? This is something serious.
So
Many people are asking me.
Before what can people do? Another issue is, which is important. There is a very, very difficult relationship between Syrians and Israelis, and any logical person would think like this animosity has to stop. This perpetual kind of cycle of animosity and fighting, it serves nobody. Not the Israeli people, not the Syrian people. So even at the time of Assad, many Syrians were thinking, why would you just keep doing that, man? Just, they're here. You cannot kill these people. You cannot get rid of them. They're living here now, and they have some historical roots in the region. So we need to figure out a format in which we reduce everyone's suffering. The problem is the Palestinians are always getting the short end of the stick. So we have a very difficult situation. At the same time, we don't really want to make any enemies with anybody, but we don't want to take help that is conditional, that will come back bad at us. But So I don't know what the solution is, but I know what we need. We need localized security in Syria. That's very important. Every region, every group of people should be able to have some form of self-defense, because it worked for the Druze. They protected themselves. The price was high, and they needed some extra support from outside. But at the end, they held up together. It would have been really bad if they lost at that time. The Alawites were the only one who surrendered our weapons. And we really know, I can tell you how bad it is to surrender your weapons. And the new president is a graduate of Al-Qaeda, and he has many terrorist groups under his command. It's not a great position to be in. So we need localized self-defense. Every group should have some capability of defending itself, because if you can defend yourself, your attacker is much less likely to attack you. If we cannot protect people, there is no point in discussing a government. There is no point in discussing patriotism or a country. So we need centralized defense. We need people to be able to protect themselves, and because when Jolani falls, it's going to be bad. There are wars that might be waiting for us. That is one thing. Another thing is we really need federalism in Syria, because Syria is not just a simple country with one type of people who all have a great relationship. Syria is a collection of peoples. Syria is a collection of ethnicities, a collection of religions. Even within the one religion, there are many sects who are very different and far from each other. So I wanted to talk about Alawism a little bit, but probably today we don't have time. Maybe in the future we might go into that. But Alawism is an esoteric religion. It's vastly different from Islam, at least from Orthodox Islam, and the same for Christians, the same for Druzes, the same for Yazidis, the same for the Assyrians. So this is a big country with a lot of variety. So we need some kind of federalization that respects the different properties of each region. If it doesn't work with just a strong centralized government, it's not that easy to do. Bashar couldn't do it very well. He had a very strong army. He had support of some large allies of his. It didn't go very well for him. And it's definitely not going to work when the president is an extremist who is a graduate of Al-Qaeda. So we need to learn to know who the Syrians are. We need to learn that this guy is different from me. He has a different faith. He has a different ethnicity. He has a different mentality, but we are both Syrians. There are things that put us together, but there are differences. This is just normal. Humans are not all the same. And I don't know how long would it take us to learn that. Apparently, a few thousand years were not enough. But at least at the current moment, society has collapsed. And people are back into instincts. People are back into self-preservation. You need to let them protect themselves. If that doesn't happen, there is no way you can build anything on top of it.
So we are stuck between two rocks, one of which is a political authoritarianism, which brings everybody together with, as we say in Arabic, بالبوط العسكري, with the shoes of the boots of the military. Or everybody will go into the tribe mode, basically, and we will have our police and security protecting us, like some of the political parties in Lebanon, all based on sect and ethnicity and religion, etc. But this is not, in my opinion, not a formula for building the state and building society.
No, I don't think so. But now society has collapsed and people are dying, and not necessarily based on sect or ethnicity. At least based on region, because regions have more similarities than faraway regions. We have to admit that. Someone from the coast is not the same as someone from Deir ez-Zor or Raqqa or Hasaki. It's not the same as someone from Sueda or Dara. We have some differences that we need to come into terms with. We need to understand that these exist. And by the way, very successful nations all around the world are using federal systems. Federal systems work because in the states would collapse tomorrow if they don't have federalization, because each state is widely different from the other. And if each federal unit is successful, that goes into the total success of the entire country. Maybe sometime in the future, a few thousand years from now, we might be civilized enough to just get rid of everything and just have one central system. But definitely we're not here today.
My worry is, Modar, that these countries which we always refer to, who adopted federalism, they adopted it after some time of social and political development. This was the product of historical context, let's say, of their own countries. We didn't live this. Like what happened in our region is 400 years of Ottoman occupation, and then the Islamic conquest, which didn't bring civil statehood, didn't build civil statehood, let's say, in this region. So I'm not blaming everything, of course, on Islam, but Islamic conquests didn't build a civil state or allowed political practice, and then we had 400 years of political and intellectual hibernation under the Ottoman Empire, which is now, we see the result of it in front of our eyes. Therefore, I also believe now federalism will definitely lead into balkanization, and sooner or later people will notice that even when you create some sort of federal system, it will be dysfunctional. It will be some of these regions trying to have a say over other regions because they have more natural resources or because they're more powerful. So there will be some intra-federal conflict between them, and this will lead definitely into people calling for separatism. And in order to separate from Syria, you will need foreign backing, just like the Druze did. Were it not for the foreign backing, they cannot impose this formula. And that also means that all these components of the Syrian society are now hostage of the foreign agenda and also their interest in the country. If in the future, this is the discussion I'm having nowadays, people say, no, we have to accept Israel as a protector or not. And I say, no, but that's the only way. If you want to implement and impose a new formula now in Syria, you need a foreign backing, and the foreign backing is it will lead to achieve the interests of these foreign powers. I find seriously hard time to come to a conclusion and say this is the best, whether it's federalism or centralized. I feel all the options are bad. The centralized government in the hands of al-Jolani is the worst, definitely. Because of as we spoke about, the existential threat. And then having a certain autonomous status will require you to have some financial or economic dependency on outside powers, because where will the Druze bring their fuel from? Where will they bring their bread? Where will they bring their reconstruction materials if al-Jolani imposes a siege on them, which already happens? So everybody will be relying on an outside power, and this means the death of Syria. That's why on the 9th of December 2024, I said, Syria is dead. You cannot bring back the Syria that I'm talking now in German, I and you have known for a long time. It's gone. There is going to be a new Syria. We don't know where will it lead in the foreseeable future, but it will definitely be a very, very difficult and bloody journey, whether it's with federalism or without federalism.
So I appreciate your position and you explaining that in good terms to me. But then I have to ask a question for myself and for yourself. Which one is really important in a country? What is the most important unit in a country? Isn't it the human?
Yes.
Isn't the human the most important thing in a country? What point of a country? What point of belonging to a country is if you as a human is very likely to get murdered?
Yes.
And if the people who are telling you that they're going to murder you for 14 years are really, they really showed you that they are really honest with their promise. And this is not the first time, by the way, for the Alawites. It happened to us under the Ottoman Empire, under the Abbasid dynasty, under the Mamluk dynasty. So my position right now, if not, I'm not allowed to have some simple human rights. You have no position to tell me how I should belong to this piece of land, on which my all my ancestors have lived. So
Yes.
the problem, what is putting us in this dilemma, is putting the extremists into power like that, bringing a group of extremist jihadists groups and giving them power, and then the Western countries saying, "Oh, well, you got a very good president. He's very handsome, looks very strong, and Trump is happy with him. So you guys deal with it." So either they're actively pushing in this direction, and all this media is a facade that is a lie in our face, or they're just they don't understand or they don't care. So I understand your position, but this is the direction in which they are pushing. And so they push you over the cliff, and they say, well, throwing yourself over the cliff is very bad. Why would you do that? It's like you should be more ethical than that. So that is one thing. Another thing is, if you create a federal system with the intention of giving people tools to have their culture, with the intention of really building some kind of political structure that helps Syrians somehow get along together, then it's going to work in that direction. If you create a federal system either without thinking or with the intention of using that same federal system for inciting conflict, that's going to happen. It's a tool. It depends on how you use it. If you know how to use the tool, and if you get the right people in the right places and they know how to implement them, it can be a fantastic tool. It can be a tool to at least find some formula to put all these different peoples in this country together, and to let them be Syrian at the same time, to let them have a little bit of culture. I tell you what, I'm not going to accept my daughter or my wife having to wear niqab ever.
No.
So that is a very simple thing. As an Alawite, I'm telling you, and I want her to go to university. I want her to get an education. I want her to get a job. I'm not going to accept living in Al-Qaeda run society. So until people come to terms with these differences, if other people want that, I'm willing to respect that, even if I don't agree with it, because people are entitled to their lifestyles. If other people want that for themselves, who am I to tell them not to have it for themselves? At the same time, I have my own values, which I'm going to uphold. Not only, we're not even at the stage of upholding values. Now we're at the stage of survival, of staying alive, of surviving as a minority in this very dangerous Middle East.
I totally agree with you on this, and that's why I would like to show you this comment. For example, you are no Syrian, you are a Christian and an Armenian and a worshipper of a man. This is the mentality that we are talking about, because it's difficult to coexist with this type of mentality. And I would like to agree with you on why federalism is seen also, even beyond federalism, an acceptable solution for many. And I think many people should comprehend why this is happening. And this is what I wrote a few days ago. I said, with Jolani in power, Syria's ethnic and religious communities, people who simply cannot coexist with barbaric Takfiri rule, are being pushed toward federalism, autonomy, and outright separatism. This is the inevitable outcome of installing an al-Qaeda emir as the ruler of Damascus. If Syria is to remain a single coherent state, there is one path forward: a moderate, patriotic Syrian Sunni leader who treats every citizen, Alawite, Sunni, Christian, Druze, Ismaili, Armenian, Assyrian, Kurdish, as equal human beings, not sects, to be hunted. People are not asking for luxury or miracles. They are asking for the bare minimum: dignity, safety, and the right to live in their own country. Until that exists, fragmentation will continue, and Jolani is the catalyst for it. And this is why, in my opinion, they installed Jolani to power. Some of the powers, they wanted this because he can divide the country vertically. They wanted this division in the Syrian
That's
society.
a very good theory. It's working out very well for them, whoever put that theory forward so far. So this is the issue. Like when you have people being put under extreme conditions, and their survival is very much on the line. And then you come to blame them for trying to come up with solutions. Even they're not perfect, but solutions that might somehow just make it work, keep the country somehow in some format together until we have a more educated and civilized generation that can negotiate with each other better. You're blaming the wrong people.
Yes. Guys, for those who are asking, Mudar's surname is Hassan.
It's Hassan.
Hassan, where can the people find, like, if they want to stay in touch with you? You had also, you said, a YouTube channel.
I have
in
a
Arabic.
little YouTube channel. It's very tiny. It's called Alawite Gnostic. But I don't recommend anyone with a faint heart to watch my videos. So you can watch on your own discretion.
I think you can send me this via private message now on this software
Yeah, I
that
can
we're
just
using.
put the handle for it in the chat if that is fine for you.
Please
So
do.
I just put it here, and then please feel free to share it any way you want.
I will just show the people also. It's not a small channel, by the way. It's almost 8,000 subscribers. So this is the channel for those also who speak Arabic, guys. If you like to follow also Modar and stay in touch with him. Is there anything related to your work that you also publish? If some people would like to check it,
related to my research.
Yes.
Well, you can find me very easily. Just type my name in English, Modar Hassan. Hassan has double S, and then if you go like to Google Scholar, you can find like all my works. And if there is something that you really want to read and you cannot access the paper, maybe I can give you a copy of it.
I will also drop these links also in the live chat. Are you on X or you're not?
I am on X. I'm holding a beer on X. Trigger warning.
Haram, habibi, haram.
I'm sorry. For me, it's fine. For me, it's not.
Please send me also. I would like to. Some people are asking where they can follow you on X. I think.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put you a link here on my Google Scholar page, in which you can find the majority of my kind of academic publications. But also warning, it's too much nerdy, it's too much engineering. But if you like to torture yourself, please go ahead.
Yes, this is it, guys. I will also drop it now in the live chat for those who.
And then for Twitter, I use Twitter not so often that I don't really know how to share it. So my name on Twitter is Muatin Suri.
Muatin Suri in Arabic.
But no, in English. So I'm gonna type it for you in the chat here.
Please
but
do.
be warned, I'm getting very sick of being a Muatin Suri, so that might change very
I see the beer now holding in his hands, guys. For those also asking, this is the X account. So as we said, you can find him now on different platforms. I also posted his academic work, for those who would like to follow. Also the X in the live chat. Modar, any last words you would like to share before we wrap up this?
I want to thank you, and I feel with all the misery that's happening, but now that I'm more involved in the issues, every at least like a few days, I'm meeting wonderful Syrian people, and I'm very happy. I'm very honored and proud to share this region of the world with you, even though right now it's really in a very bad condition. But I hope the Syrian people from all different backgrounds can somehow pull together. It might take a miracle, but you never know.
I think people like you, I see Syria through the eyes of people like you. Like when I see someone like yourself with your own moral compass, the values that you were raised, regardless of your any religious background, that's the last thing anybody would ask if you're a Syrian. El-Din Muamale, which means if you treat me well, I treat you well. I don't care if you're worshipping anyone or anything. That's not my business. And also it makes me feel proud to see people like you and many other Syrians all around the world studied, educated themselves, gathered all these skills, and our country would have needed us. Unfortunately, nowadays it's very difficult to put this into practice. However, I think and I believe, Modar, that we have to improve our skills as much as we can and wait for the right moment, because this is not the right moment for the people, as you said. Any sane person, you said, they would not have joined this such a revolution, right?
Yeah.
So there is going to be a time for people like yourself, and that's why I'm building bridges between these people, guys. I will definitely have Modar back. I will have other Syrians. If you're a Syrian and would like to have a conversation with me, please send me an email, okay? So we could create a network of people. We don't want everybody to agree. This is a democratic space, so we could have a conversation even if you disagree with us. So that's a good start, in my opinion. Modar, thank you so much for coming. Guys, you know what time is it now in his place? It's 2 a.m. at night now. So we hold him for the entire night. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you came live.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Habibi, thank you so much, really. I will set you free very soon. I just want to thank all the viewers of Syriana Analysis today, especially our moderators. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow, okay? Peace be upon you, upon your families, and salam.
Thank you.